Hello, I'm Evan, you're watching Lastability, and in this video we're going to talk about Death Stranding. Death Stranding is coming out in a few days, and the reviews have already polarized people, with some reviewers giving it a high, almost excellent score, while others giving it a very low score. The funny thing about this whole situation is that people who haven't even played the game, because the game isn't out yet, strongly agree with either side. Is Death Stranding the best game of its generation, or is it one of the most boring games ever? Truth be told, I have no idea, because as I mentioned earlier, it's not out yet. What I can do though is give you my thoughts about why you should or shouldn't give Death Stranding a chance. But in order to do that, I have to talk about the thing that makes Death Stranding a unique case. And that thing, or to be more precise, that person, is Hideo Kojima. In 1986, Konami hired Hideo Kojima, and 1 year later he designed and wrote Metal Gear for the MSX2. If you're not familiar with it, MS6 was a home computer architecture designed by Microsoft and ASCII way back in 1983. In fact, MS6 systems were so popular in Japan that resulted in 5 million units being sold in Japan alone. Despite Microsoft's involvement, few MS6-based machines were released and sold outside of Japan. Before the rise of Nintendo, Sega and Sony, MS6 was the platform for which Konami and other major Japanese game studios produced video games. As you may already know, Metal Gear laid the foundations for stealth games and the Metal Gear series as a whole, the series which Hideo Kojima is known and loved for. It was Metal Gear Solid for PlayStation in 1998 that elevated his status to be considered as one of the most acclaimed video games developer in the industry. As such, Hideo Kojima is one of the few people in the gaming industry that has a recognizable style with a thematic preoccupation who doesn't conform to industry norms. In other words, he does things his way. He has always created games as a form of personal expression more than others, and that's what divides people when it comes to his games. That personal expression also has given us some of the best, most memorable moments in video game history. Just remember the boss fight with Psycho Mantis in Metal Gear Solid. In this fight, Psycho Mantis would read Snake's mind by looking at the data of your memory card. Any move you did, Psycho Mantis would anticipate it, thus making the fight seem unwinnable. To defeat the boss, you had to actually switch controller ports so that Psycho Mantis couldn't read your mind anymore. Or who can forget the legendary Hideo mode that fools you into believing your TV has suddenly lost a signal. Or the cardboard camouflage in the Metal Gear series, which by the way has been there from the first game. Hideo Kojima has always managed to break the fourth wall like few game designers have. This time around in Death Stranding he has implemented a pissing activity as a social game mechanic. According to Kojima, if enough people pee on the same spot, something good will grow later on. I have no idea what that good thing will be, but I bet it will be hilarious, weird, or both in one way or another. Now, that's Kojima in a nutshell. Quirky, eccentric, obsessed with detail, and always pushing the boundaries of the hardware he develops on. You either appreciate his work or you don't. If you go into a Hideo Kojima game without knowing all this, you'll probably find it weird, boring, or one of the best games you've ever played. This is a game designer who must be allowed to have his eccentricities unbounded and his creativity unhampered by a publisher in order to truly create. And one of the things Sony did right in this console generation was to give Hideo Kojima that creative freedom. Sure, some might say that profit was the main reason Sony signed a deal with Kojima and threw money his way. But that would be just one side of the coin. Sony is a huge corporation and profit is the name of the game. But Kojima has also played a big role in PlayStation history, and in a way, Sony showed him their appreciation and respect, so do some gamers and reviewers. Now, that respect for Kojima is something different than reviewing one of his games. In my opinion, a game has to be also reviewed separately from his creator. That being said, if Death Stranding wasn't created by Kojima, I believe reception and reviews would be different, and we would be having a different conversation. Reviews are subjective and almost never objective, and here lies the whole problem of this situation. It takes great self-control and gaming experience to reach a point where you can say, you know what, Game X is an amazing game. It wasn't my cup of tea, but I can't help but recognize its achievements and what it gets right. To be that kind of reviewer takes a lot of gaming experience, knowledge, and self-awareness. It also helps if you're not funded by a big corporation or don't work for one, but that's another topic. And then there is the clickbait review. You know, the one that reviews a game so differently just to get some clicks. We tend to forget that reviews come from people, and people have their own opinions for all the reasons I mentioned earlier. So keep all those things in mind whenever you read or watch a review, not just for Death Stranding, but any review, even mine. We live in an age where developers or publishers take political sides. DLCs are considered a natural thing, loot boxes and microtransactions are welcomed with open arms, well, maybe not for you and me, but just look at the charts, and you'll see what I mean. We also live in an age where people have strong opinions about a game that hasn't even been released yet, just from reading or seeing videos about it.
I mean, come on!
I could go on, but that's not the point of this video. In a world where formulaic games, movies and TV series are getting released in droves, it is refreshing to see someone who has the creative freedom to express himself and take us along for the ride. Is Death Stranding the best game ever released? I have no idea, but we'll find out in a couple of days anyway. All I can say is that I'm excited to play it just for the experience. Watching this, you might think that I love Hideo Kojima's work no matter what. Well, that's not entirely true. His stories rarely make sense right away. He creates mechanics that are cool but aren't properly used. His obsession with very long cinematics in games isn't always welcome. And that's just to name a few. Death Stranding, from what I can tell, is guilty of all the above. So the question remains, should you give Death Stranding a chance? If you played Hideo Kojima games and you freaking love the guy, well, then you probably like Death Stranding. You didn't need me to tell you that. Same is true if you don't like his games. If on the other hand you have no idea what a Hideo Kojima game is all about, and you're trying to figure out whether you should buy it or not, stop reading and watching reviews. Take a leap of faith and try it for yourself. You are, after all, the ultimate judge. Or do it only to reward creative freedom. If you're on a tight budget and you don't fall into the categories I mentioned earlier, then it is a gamble, I'll be honest, especially when there are more conventional games out there. The situation with Death Stranding is complicated just like the mind behind it, and I hope I helped you a little to decide whether to get the game or not. Just a heads up, I will be releasing a review of the game on this channel as soon as I finish it, and not a moment sooner. Unfortunately, I buy the games I review, so I have to wait till its release to begin playing it, so stay tuned for that. But enough about me. What do you think about Death Stranding? Are you getting it day one or not at all? Let me know in the comments below. Well, that's it for now. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm Evan, you're watching Lastability, and until next time, take care.